What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another look at recent sales for vintage Star Wars figures, and I think I've focused almost everything on just action figures. No play sets or vehicles or anything like that in this video. But there's some really interesting items in this one, very unique items, as you can see by this thumbnail. There were some Lili Ledys that sold here recently. Some of those auctions are still going, so the next loose graded video will have even more Lili Ledys, but these two in particular were worth talking about, I thought. And then a number of other kind of wonky, kind of off-the-wall items or unique variants, things like that. And then some standard stuff to kind of fill it in here to give us enough to talk about. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. This was interesting. This is something I haven't seen in a long time for sale at auction on eBay. This is the radio-controlled R2-D2. And I'm not sure what year this was. I think it was like 78 or so when this one came out, but it's got the Long Play logo on the box there next to the Kenner, so I'm assuming it's like 77, 78, somewhere in there. Pretty early on, put it that way. And the box was in pretty good shape. This is one of those ones that has the flap, and so the flap is creased. The R2 itself was in pretty good shape, maybe a little bit of yellowing to it. But overall, really nice condition. It also does have the original remote with it too. So I just thought it was kind of interesting to show this one, since it's something that you don't see very often. This was down in Australia. It sold for 400 Australian dollars, which is 258 US dollars. So just kind of an item that you don't see that often that was worth pointing out for those of you that collect those a little bit more esoteric type of items. All right, so we got the radio-controlled Jawa Sandcrawler. This is an item we talk about occasionally. This one had a really nice box with it. Look how clean the box was on this one. So you knew it was going to go for a lot of money, and the actual item itself was in great shape as well. It did include the instruction sheet and the warranty, so, you know, pretty nice item. You don't see these types of sand crawlers where it's a true survivor like this, especially the box in this kind of condition. Absolutely stunning. That one sold for 1802 in an auction. That one closed on February 13th. 19 bids on that one, so $1,802. Now, if you're just looking for just the sand crawler by itself, complete with the remote and everything, I've seen them sell kind of $800 to $900 ish. That's kind of a good rule of thumb number. Certainly, you're going to have to pay more if it's still working. Or in better shape, things like that. But a good rule of thumb is probably that $800 to $900 range for a really clean-looking Jawa Sandcrawler complete with the remote control. Next up, I've got several different blue snags that sold, and they were all in kind of varying degrees and condition. This one was kind of rough with the boots. The actual torso, it's funny how rough the boots are, but look how clean the torso is. The torso hasn't discolored whatsoever, so it's interesting to see what parts of certain action figures get wear. And clearly this one was played with, but for whatever reason, the plastic on the torso did not discolor. That one sold for $400. Next up, there was another one that sold. This one also did have a really clean torso, and the boots were in a little bit better condition. This is probably like, I'd say 75 grade condition, maybe 70 plus. This one was a lot rougher, just given the boots. I don't know. It's about the same, I guess. It's about the same. I don't know. I would guess 70 to 75 for both of these. This second one sold for $432 in a buy it now situation. So $400, $432. This one sold for $600, but look how clean the boots are. This is the toe dent version. But unfortunately, you got the other problem. So the other ones had bad boots. This one has pretty pristine boots, but the torso has discolored on it. So your guess is as good as mine as to what makes these blue snags torsos discolor and what doesn't. But the boots on this one were in pretty incredible shape. Maybe a little bit of rub on the lips of the boots there. But wow, this is easily a 75 plus, if not 80 grade condition. It won't be above an 80. I can tell you that. But usually when the torso discolors like that, they kind of grade that to like a 75 plus at best. So I don't know. It was really nice though. $600 on that one. And again, $432 and $400 were the other two sales prices for blue snags. Diecast, I did have a vehicle after all. I forgot I included this one. I think I've got two different Diecast Tie Bombers. And I usually show stuff in the videos that I want to buy myself. And these were two of them. This one was over in Europe. This was in really clean condition for the Diecast Tie Bomber. I really want to get one of these, but I just don't feel like dropping like $700 or $800 on one right now. So this one was very clean, though. It did have yellowing to the wings, which almost all of them do at this point. It also does have yellowing to that little canopy piece that's plastic. The actual die cast was in great shape, though. That one sold for 695 euros on one bid, 744 US dollars on that one. And then this one was over here in the US. That one was sold in a buy it now for $700. And this one was in worse shape, I would argue, versus the other one that sold in an auction. This one, again, sold $700. This one was $744. So that gives you a pretty tight price range. This one's a little bit worse condition with the paint chipping on the die-cast portion of it. But it's going to be a lot of money if I ever plunk down the money for it. I just don't want to spend it, but I do want one eventually. So next up, I've got some 12-inch figures I wanted to show. This box was in really great shape for the C-3PO. This sold in an auction for $129.50. And this one was out of the, it was loose out of the package, but the actual box and window and everything were in really good shape. Next up, I've got an R2-D2. It looks like it's factory sealed with kind of this mailer tape. I think some of those did come factory sealed like that, but I don't know for a fact on that. But this one was pretty pristine and obviously sold for a lot of money, $450 on that one. This Luke Skywalker was very minty. The actual figure it was basically unused contents. But the box itself was a little rougher shape. It did have the, all the content still in the bag and things like that. That one sold for $450. These two I had at in my what to buy video. The boxes were in rough shape, but the actual figures themselves were unplayed with, based on what I could tell there. So that Princess Leia sold for $276 in an auction, and then the Han Solo sold for $380. Also unused contents, but opened with kind of a tatty box. But $380 on that one, mainly, I don't know. I don't know why the Han sold for more. Maybe it's just because he's a little bit more desirable. I don't know. But $380 on that one, and then the Leia sold for $276. This is kind of a unique variant I've talked about in the past. This is the molded legs Han Hoth. And it did have some paint kind of overspray on the bottom of the boots there. But this is the molded legs. So this is molded in bright tan plastic, not painted legs like the vast majority of them are. And it had one or two little rubs on the hands, but overall pretty clean shape. That one sold for $130. Very fair price on that. I mean, I've seen them sell for a lot more than this. But that's one I'd like to pick up as well. Very nice. This is probably going to grade about an 80. So maybe not. I don't know. But that one was worth buying. So I think I sent this one out in a what to buy. And I was going to give it a little while before I bought it, but it sold pretty quick. So $130 on that one. Blue Saber Luke Jedi did have a nose rub, though. So that's unfortunate, but, it does happen with Luke Jedi sometimes. But harder to find Blue Saber. That one sold for $137.50 plus $6 shipping. And here was a second one, Blue Saber. That one sold for $140, but he did not have the nose rub. So a little bit cleaner condition on that one. And, pretty nice looking Luke Jedi's Blue Saber. Going to pay a little bit more money for the Blue Saber. Next up, here is that Luke Jedi with the green saber. This is the Lili Ledy version. And the Luke was not perfect, but it had the correct accessories for the Lili Ledy version of Luke. Luke himself did have a little bit of nose rub, a little bit of rub on the hands. Probably grades like a 75 plus or an 80 would be my guess. I would probably lean towards an 80. And this one included the card back as well as the bubble, the original bubble for it. So I sent this out in a what to buy, and I said, hey, this is sorry about the scrolling here. I wanted to show the back of the card back. This is the positive card back for the Lili Ledy Luke Jedi. And it included the original bubble. And I sent it out in a what to buy alert saying, hey, the auction's ending. This is a really good candidate to send to CAS or AFA, whatever. Or not AFA, but UKG. UKG does it and CAS does it. I don't think AFA does something like this, but it would be really cool to kind of assemble it to make it look like a Minton Card Lili Ledy. It's much more budget friendly. A Minton Card Luke Jedi Lili Ledy is going to be many thousands of dollars. Okay, way too much money. But this one sold for $578. I thought that was a really good buy. A Luke Jedi complete by itself sells for $350 on the low end, but usually $400 to $450 loose, complete, ungraded, without the bubble or the card back. So to get them all for $578, I thought that was a bargain of a deal, and congrats to my Patreon supporter who got that one. I think that was a really good pickup. I was very tempted on it, but I'm glad you were able to get that. And I think he's in the UK, so he was like, hey, does UK do it? And I think they do that. But I know that CAS has a really elegant solution where they assemble it to make it look like a Minton card. And they have like rails that hold the blister on top of the card back with the figure inside, so it looks like a Minton card. I don't know if UKG does that or not. I assume they do, but if not, I would send it to CAS because they have a really awesome preserved grading kind of thing that I've done for a number of these that looks amazing. But I don't have any, all the ones I did, they don't have the bubble. They just have the card back. This one, you would have the bubble on top and it would just look amazing. So congrats on that one. 578 took that home. And then here was the other interesting item that sold from the same seller. This one had a COA from Horatio Tortajada. He is a Lili Ledy and Mexican bootleg expert. He's got his own Facebook page called Ozio's Bootlegs, I believe, or Ozio's Lili Ledys and Bootlegs. But this is a pre-production or potentially an unpainted overstock Admiral Abar. So you can see the arms are not painted, and it was assembled with glue. And then the Weequay staff, the vibro axe, was actually glued to the hand when they found it. They're saying that this is a pre-production item potentially, or some kind of overstock item that was maybe used for testing out the figure, things like that. So they're not really sure what it is, but it was a very interesting item, especially since it was the pieces were not sonically welded. They were glued together, unpainted arms and legs there. So I just thought it was a really cool item. I was very tempted on it. It would have been a really good candidate to send to CAS to have this COA from Horatio displayed next to the figure, and then this vibro axe, which was found with the figure glued to his hand. So it's a really interesting item. And here's what it says on it. It says the figure wasn't sealed through a sonic welding process. Torso was instead glued. Torso, legs, and arms are unpainted. Head is partially painted. It was originally found with the staff included glued to the right hand. This figure could be the result of unfinished overstock parts, some sort of test shot in order to review the condition of the mold, or the result of discarded parts from an intermediate stage of production. This figure was not available or offered to the general public. So very interesting COA from Horatio on that, and he is an expert. He's one of the guys that people turn to for the Lili Ledy Burgundy Cape Bib Fortunas to make sure that they're legitimate. So he does these kind of like COAs for Mexican bootlegs and for rare Lili Ledys. So it's a very awesome COA that would look really great next to the figure in like a CAS case. So anyway, that one did sell for $516. I mean, that's a price I would have paid all day long for such a unique item. Next up, we've got some Droids figures that I had to finish things off, as well as one Ewoks figure. This is the Droids C-3PO in near mint condition. It sold for $750, and what's interesting is yesterday an AFA 85 Plus Droids C-3PO, so already graded, sold for $700 in an auction. This one is ungraded and sold for more. So again, this was a buy it now versus an auction, so that does happen. But that just shows you that, you know, you can get an AFA 85 Plus for less than what someone paid for an ungraded example. And, you know, not everyone's into grading. I get that. They just might want it for their display. That's fine. But I wouldn't pay $750 for it. I would pay like $600, somewhere in there. But it was still a beautiful example, though, and would grade very highly. Next up, we've got the Droids Jantosh, or as several members of Rogue 5 like to say, a young action figure grader, which I was never this buff when I was young. I was kind of a portly child when I was growing up. But I appreciate the compliment. I would argue that I'm probably more muscular now than when I was in high school or even college, but I'm still not like this. Okay, I don't have this kind of torso. I wish I had the V. I don't have the V. Mine's more like a barrel shape, you know, or a pear shape. But this guy's got a V shape to his torso. This Jantosh with the coin, complete with the weapon, sold for $200. The Kaz Ebon, I forgot to look up the sales price on it, but this Kaz Ebon was complete with, I believe, the correct black weapon that also goes with Luke Stormtrooper. So as a result, Kaz Ebon complete is very expensive. This Also included the coin. It was listed for $320. I don't know what it sold for. I forgot to look it up before I started making the video. I'm going to guess like $280 or so. Somewhere in that ballpark is about market for a near mint plus condition complete Kaz Ebon with the correct blaster. Next up, we had a Ewoks Logray complete with the coin. This is always a very expensive figure, Minton Card. Minton Card, I've seen this go as high as like $700-800, but they've come back down a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm getting it mixed up with the Ewoks version of Wicket. That one is expensive, Minton Card. That one's $800. The Logray you could probably pick up $400 to $600 if it's in really clean condition or AFA graded, but even loose complete, they're very expensive. And this is a good example of that. Loose complete with the coin sold for $220. And then finally, I did want to include one bootleg that was a good deal. This was a 1985 static, unarticulated Polish bootleg for Barada. Look at those wacky colors. I've got one with the exact same color scheme, I believe, in my collection. Red gloves, blue boots, and a green bandana on this one. That one sold for $51. That was a bargain. Good deal on that one. Anyway, just some kind of interesting items, off-the-wall items, unique items that you don't see very much. I hope you enjoyed this look at them. Thanks as always for watching. Be sure to leave a like, and I'll be back soon.